Ho, ho, ho! I'm sure you're all wondering why I called you in today. And that is because it is time for my holly jolly Christmas episode of Groovy Grab Bag, technically volume 21. This show works as a video diary of sorts for me, chronicling my musical listening journey through the years, seeing how my tastes in music change over time. This episode is going to be a nice and short one. In case you're wondering where the hell the Deftones episode is, that's been postponed to January because YouTube's good old algorithm system doesn't like it when you post about Christmas music in the middle of January instead of December. And I still have to do my year roundup stuff. Everything's gonna seem a little topsy-turvy considering two of the artists I'm gonna be talking about in this list were artists I did deep dives in for that video. Usually I do deep dives of at least 2 or 3 artists per video, but for this episode I decided to just listen to all of the Christmas albums of the various artists I've reviewed over the past couple of years. So if you made a request back in November, it's not going to be covered until January, but that's coming, I promise. And if you made any requests for this month, you're going to see them in this episode. Now, 2 of the albums that were requested to me have nothing to do with Christmas, so we're going to do what one of my writers likes to call pulling an Alabaman bus ride and participating in some good old segregation. Who wrote that? Alright, so let's get this list started, shall we? Number 2, Alone I Admire by Auburn Lull. Hi there, Prozac. I didn't like this album all too much, I'm sorry. Alright, I'm just gonna be blatantly honest. Over the last few years, I've kind of been shoegazed out, and yes, I kind of get the irony of my channel being called Shoegazer Productions. But it's true, I mean, I kind of got into shoegazing around 2009, and then I kept exposing myself to more and more shoegaze. And just like exposing yourself to any other genre, you kind of start to get tired of it after a while. It's not that this album is bad, it's just that I'm a bit of a picky motherfucker when it comes to this shit now. First off, I'm gonna politely correct you on something. You built this as a Blue Nile sound-alike, but I guess you're only correct in the sense that the Blue Nile does occasionally kind of add those sparse arrangements and those more atmospheric moments. But I didn't hear a whole lot of sophistopop wonder on this record. This is very much more along the lines of Brian Eno ambience meeting shoegazing textures and some slowcore rhythms. I do kind of like the vocal approach with this. It's very Bowery electric in nature, with the fact that sometimes all you can hear are like the consonants, and you're not always able to pick out the vowels of the words being sung or the pitch. It's obfuscated very purposefully, kind of taking that My Bloody Valentine approach to the vocals to their logical extreme. I also really do like the warm analog sound on this album, as you can hear the tape hiss in between each track. But while the music is playing, you can hardly tell it's so cleanly produced for its era. Gotta give credit where credit's due, as even by 1999, most artists were trying to convert the recording studios completely into digital. But it's just a bit too opaque for my tastes, and I'm more than happy to continue to listen to stuff like this in the future if you recommend it. I always feel like I'm letting you down a little bit with some of these reviews, because it's just like, yeah, it's fine, but I didn't get much out of it, and my reasons are always going to be very finicky. I'm gonna go with a B on this one. And number 1 for the non-Christmas related albums, Playing with Scratches by Ruckus Roboticus. Congrats, Corey, you're a winner. What'd you win? Well, nothing, because the show doesn't really have a budget for prizes. But hey, you get brownie points for not being number 2. Okay, joking aside, this album is unironically pretty fucking excellent. So what this is for the uninitiated is a crate digger record. And I know that that sounds like a slur to at least half the people that heard that term for the first time. Okay, so basically take the musical vibes of, like, say, DJ Shadow, Beck in his Odelay phase, or even Cornelius, right? But instead of including your own original instrumentals, you do nothing but build songs based off of samples that you found from records that you collected from various thrift stores and record stores. And let's keep in mind that the software that this was made in was very much in its infancy at its time. So you either had to do some really clever loops with this type of stuff, or you were basically twiddling knobs until you got rid of the elements that you didn't want to use. To say that this had to have been a bitch to meticulously produce is an understatement. But man, did Ruckus Roboticus pull it off beautifully on here. These songs slap, man. They're some of the best I've heard in this sort of genre. I just kept finding myself constantly surprised by how well this was all put together. And the fact that this man isn't even famous enough to have his own Wikipedia article is a damn shame. Also, you know those old, like, public service announcement movies that your teacher would play on the projector on those days that she was probably too hungover to actually teach? Well, this guy basically found the vinyl record equivalent of these and incorporated them humorously into the album itself. You find yourself cracking up way more often, and it also gives the guy a very specific vibe that's very him. It's a very playful, very funky album, and honestly, this blew me away much more than I was expecting it to. Alright, Christmas time. 9 out of the 11 albums that I reviewed this month were Christmas albums. Number 9, And Then Winter Came by Enya. Yeah, I just spent the entire last episode glazing Enya, and now I'm here to finally give the review for the one album that I didn't bother covering, unless you count The Frog Princess, and if you count The Frog Princess, you're a weirdo. Yeah, this album isn't that good. As much as she knocked it out of the park with Amarantine, I don't feel like she did the same here. This album suffers from a lot of similar issues that A Day Without Rain had. First off, it's just so soft around the edges, and I know that's kind of typical for Enya, is softness, but there's a limit to how soft we can get before it just becomes dull. It's mostly just very underwhelming, and the production sounds really bad on here. Right around 2000, for some reason, somebody in the recording booth decided it was a good idea to start bass boosting Enya. And of course, the Spotify equalization settings don't exactly help for new listeners. But even the remasters of her classics like Shepherd Moons and Watermark can sound a little off. It just doesn't really fit her vibe, and I don't know why we decided to go loudness wars on Enya. But okay, this album isn't completely without any merit. There are 2 moments on here that I actually did appreciate. Granted, they were both at the tail end. My, How Time Flies is one of those songs that hits you out of left field. I almost hated it because of how jarring it was. But once I kind of started to get into the groove and get used to what it was actually trying to do, I started to admire it. It sounds very much like those 1960s girl group songs. Basically like the Ryans finally showing off their Phil Spector influence, except without all of the threatening John Lennon with the gun vibes. And then, of course, there's Enya's rendition of Ihe Hun. What do you mean you don't know about Ihe Hun? You hear Ihe Hun all the fucking time. Every time you go to a Christmas concert, they sing Ihe Hun. Oh, wait, that's right. That's the Irish title of the song. It usually goes by Silent Nights. Yeah, Enya's version of that song is actually pretty well beloved. And that's because Silent Night became something of a protest song during the holiday season, being sung in the native Irish in order to protest British occupation. And this is the chorale version, so we get the 4-part vocal harmonies, and you know that she layered those each with individual vocal takes. But aside from those 2 wonderful moments, this album just does not have a whole lot going for it. I found myself just very befuddled, very middled by it. The whiplash does not suit me during this time of year, let me tell ya. C+. Number 8, Cheers, It's Christmas by Blake Shelton. No thanks, Blake. I think I'll settle with being sober, thank you very much. Boys round here drinking ice cold beer? Boys around here drinking ice cold beer. Except now we're doing so and it's Christmas, so that makes it okay? Alright, spoiler alert, I ended up reviewing the entire Blake Shelton discography last month. Did I learn anything? No. Was anybody asking for it? No. This doesn't sound that much different than most of Blake's other albums. Maybe a little bit more competent guitar work, because it's like, hey, you gotta put a little bit of a pip in our step, right? Maybe it'll put like the teensiest bit of Christmas spirit into you. But you can tell by the look on my face, I was not happy to listen to yet another fucking Blake Shelton album after I thought I was done with him. Now, there was one song on here that I did actually genuinely like. See, I'm not completely heartless. I like the song Santa's Got a Choo-Choo Train. That's right, motherfuckers, Santa doesn't need those lame, wimpy-ass reindeer anymore. Not when he's got a big, manly choo-choo to drive across the country. Don't ask how it's supposed to be efficient. This is a dumb, fun song, and we're just supposed to enjoy it, okay? Also, what's with all of the featured artists on here? Enya, Kelly Clarkson. This is just a who's who of the people he would eventually work with on The Voice. Reba McEntire? When was the last time anybody gave a shit about Reba, even by 2013 standards? Michael Bublé? Okay, you can actually do good things with that man. Not that Blake does. Michael Bublé is just kind of there as like mild decoration at best. Yeah, I don't got much else to say. This thing went in one ear and out the other, and I just had the mildest of smiles on my face. C+. Number 7, Mark Tremonti's Christmas Classics Old and New by Mark Tremonti. In case you're wondering, wait, who the fuck is Mark Tremonti? I've never heard his music before. Let me just say, there's a very strong likelihood that you have. Are you a fan of Creed or Alter Bridge, both of whom I covered their discographies back in, I want to say, April of last year? But if you're a fan of either of those bands, he plays guitar and is one of the principal songwriters of both. The thing about Mark is that usually he's too busy being drowned out by a religious zealot in the form of Scott Stepp, or he's stuck having to collaborate with one of the best modern rock metal vocalists in Miles Kennedy. He's known for being one of the greatest modern guitarists out there. Sure, he probably doesn't write the most original stuff out there. It's very stadium corporatized rock, but hey, it's good stadium corporatized rock when you don't have to listen to Scott Stepp gnarling in your ear. So, what is this album? Is it some sort of acoustic finger-picked 30 minutes of green sleeves like compositions? Nope. So it must be like a Christmas metal album where he shreds during the whole thing. Nope. It's a vocal album. Have you guys ever listened to Creed or Alter Bridge? Have you guys noticed that usually Mark Tremonti isn't taking the lead vocals on that? Even Tremonti's own personal band, it's not exactly well known for its exceptional vocals. The dude is usually used as a backing singer for a reason. Guitar god or not, you're not gonna fix, just subpar vocal pipes. And just knowing that, like, I had the worst shivers sent down my spine knowing that this album existed. But it turned out to be pretty somewhat competent, actually. But shit, if he doesn't know how to put a little bit of extra oomph into his songs. He knew it was a Christmas album. He knew that people were going to be listening to this and coloring up their days for a month with it. So he told them to give a shit about what they were doing. We're not talking about great American songbook levels of laziness here. And yeah, the one original on here, Christmas Morning, it's actually a really fucking great song. I actually wish that Mark had just gone with making an album full of Christmas originals, because I think that would have gone well. But his rendition of Oh Holy Night is lacking, to say the least. Again, none of these are terrible, but it's like he's not the guy that you would have taking lead if he were in a choir for any of these. So why is he taking the lead here? B-. Number 6, music inspired by Illumination and Dr. Seuss's The Grinch by Tyler, the Creator. Yeah, I usually don't review EPs, but just knowing that Tyler had a Christmas release and this is a very unserious list to begin with, I just went ahead and included it. This is a unique listen, to say the least. He billed it as a non-Christmas Christmas album, basically briefly getting into the psyches of each of these characters. Now, I've never seen the Illumination Grinch movie, and I never fucking want to, and this EP didn't exactly sell me on it, but I also don't think that that was the goal of the EP. I honestly think that Tyler just really thought The Grinch was cool, but also knew the project that this was attached to and didn't want to give it too much work. Probably figured this is going to be the one chance he ever gets to do something like this. But hey, if we ever get like an album-length hip-opera of The Grinch done by Tyler, I think that'll be one of the coolest fucking things ever. And as groovy and funky as the music gets, because this is Flower Boy era Tyler the Creator for better or for worse, which means it's got all that analog warmth, and you kind of have to be a bit of a fan of that soft around the edges style Tyler the Creator. But there's also the fact that this is an EP. And it's only 10 minutes long. And that's part of the reason why I dropped the whole idea of doing EP month, is because I don't get really excited about EPs in general. I'm a long-form listen sort of guy. This thing is just a product of what it is. Ultimately, something attached to a movie that most people don't even recognize as one of the best Grinch works to begin with. B. Number 5, A Merry Christmas by Mary J. Blige. You're allowed to make that pun, Mary, but it's only because your name is Mary. The biggest problem with Mary J. Blige's discography is that after about 2005, she just kind of falls off and starts kind of giving us very hit and miss albums, but nothing that ever hits with the amount of depth of her best music. I mean, I gave 2 of her albums an A+, one of them an S. You would think she would be a lot more consistent than this, but she was actually one of the discographies that was the hardest to get through, because after a while, I just stopped being excited to listen to the next one. And that's not a rip into her skillsmanship. I mean, shit, I would rather re-explore her discography than Blake Shelton's. But that's also a good chunk of what I have to say about this, is that it's what you would expect out of a Mary J. Blige Christmas album. I mean, sure, she's a great vocalist. She gives us some really great performances on here. I will say that her version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is, you know, she says, boy, that was fun at the very end. Yeah, sure does sound like it. It's actually a great rendition. And honestly, some of the moments on here are very lovely. I like the featured musicians on here quite well. But this album also doesn't do anything to separate itself from the other Christmas albums. And that can result in this feeling a bit cash grabby in some places. And also, the entire, back half of this album is nothing but religious hymnals, which are all fine and dandy. I get it, it's part of being a Christmas album, but you couldn't intersperse those with the more lively, fun tracks. Also, this is the second album on this list that has When You Wish Upon a Star on it, a song that last I checked wasn't a Christmas song, but it's no big deal. I enjoyed myself fine and dandy on it, even if it's not one I'm gonna want to spin again anytime soon. B. Number 4, Kylie Christmas by Kylie Minogue. Kylie stands to treat this album like it ran over their dog when they were 4. Look, just because it's not disco dancing its way into your heart doesn't mean that it doesn't have its merits. Okay, I'll admit this isn't one of Kylie's best, but I've heard bad Kylie before. But look, Kylie's clearly having fun on here. It's got some really thick production and some really nice sounding songs. Her rendition of 1,000 Miles has the level of care and awe that one of the more traumatizing songs by the Pretenders deserves. But then there's also the rendition of Only You, which is, last I checked, oh yeah, not a Christmas song. And look, I get it that some of these albums are going to include songs that don't have anything to do with Christmas, but usually there's an attempt to kind of bend the definition in order to make it fit. But Only You by Yaz is not one of them. Also, what the hell is James Corden doing on there? I want to make it clear, it's not a bad rendition of the song. It's actually quite lovely. It just feels very out of place, and it's just easy to make fun of James Corden, and I had to use the opportunity to do so. What were you doing hanging out with James Corden, Kylie? Were you on Epstein Island as well? Do we need to look into your internet search history? This is a joke. Don't take this seriously. It's not reinventing the wheel, but it's clearly a fun record, well worth your time if you're a Kylie Minogue fan. It won't kill your mother on your birthday, I promise. B+. Number 3. You know, there's one artist that I have spent the last year just lighting on fire. Every month I have covered one of his worst records, and this is going to be the last month, not counting the upcoming Deftones episode, and I was anticipating this thing to be fucking terrible. Number 3 is Merry Christmas Baby by Rod Stewart. This was released on the heels of the Great American Songbook series. Just looking at the track listing, you would think to yourself he's just gonna sit there and sing these songs straight with nothing special going on. But no. Every time I kept trying to tell myself that this album sucked, I started feeling myself becoming wistful, teary-eyed, nostalgic. This album is the sonic equivalent of that one weirdo uncle of yours who's a bar musician and only performs in Vegas casinos. Not even the good ones, the cheap ones. He barely makes $100 a night, but hey, he keeps doing it because of the love of the game, right? But then every time Christmas rolls around, he somehow sells out the fucking local convention center, and suddenly he's the talk of the town. This album has a bunch of bells and whistles. Every now and then he tells that horn player, hey, let's give them a solo. No, like an actual solo. Don't just go wah 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 wah. No, put some fucking swagger into it. Or maybe he'll have a fucking children's choir in there tugging at those heartstrings, because nothing's gonna get the waterworks going during the holiday season like a fucking children's choir out of nowhere. Bells and whistles, so many goddamn bells and whistles. This man loves his bells and whistles and he knows how to use them. Where are these bells and whistles during the rest of your discography, old man? Look, this is a better album than I wanted to admit that it was, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are gonna be surprised, but actually give it a spin if you want some decent Rod Stewart, at least modern Rod Stewart. Outside of his initial, trilogy of fantastic albums like Every Picture Tells a Story, Don't It, Gasoline Alley, and Never a Dull Moment, this probably sits somewhere just outside of those. A-. Number 2, You Make It Feel Like Christmas by Gwen Stefani. I hate to drag an elephant out, but hey guys, I spent the entire last script. I haven't filmed the Deftones episode yet, but I've written everything for it, right? And I spent a lot of time, kind of defending Gwen a little bit. I understand she's a human being, she's still a celebrity. We can only care so much when somebody is, swimming in riches, right? But also, that doesn't justify the misogyny that she constantly faces, especially with people that say that she's betrayed her, musical core or whatever. But I think one thing can be universally agreed upon. This is bad. Yeah, this is really fucking bad, alright? I don't want to say that she was being directly malicious about this, but we do gotta call a spade, okay? Alright, let's go ahead and move along. Now, this album is, in my opinion, and I know that you lamb heads are going to crucify me for this, but it's the best Gwen Stefani solo record. Look, this thing slaps. This slaps real good. And apparently this was just done because one day Blake was reminiscing about some weird holiday memories, and it just kind of inspired her to get up and write a Christmas album. Yeah, that's just kind of the story to it. And Blake Shelton's on here vocally, and might have contributed some guitar parts as well. I'm still trying to get clarification on that. But hey, if it is also an album that has a lot of his guitar work on it, this is also the best Blake Shelton album, because we only have to hear him sing for 30 seconds. This album sounds very 1960s girl group, like Gwen was trying to show off her Phil Spector influence, except minus the throwing a grilled cheese sandwich halfway across the room because your girlfriend found your photos of dead Lenny Bruce vibes. Wall of sound, echo, reverb. These songs are lovingly arranged and crafted. If you like that Phil Spector Christmas album, this is a good little substitute if the whole weird hooker murder vibes just throw you off. Number 1, before I get into this, I want to share a bit of a holiday story. Currently, I am filming this quite a bit sleep deprived. I don't know if you guys noticed, but my voice is pretty fucking shot right now. That's because I currently am recovering from COVID for like the third time. Yay. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, I have had a bit of an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. The fact that I'm even able to do this with as little sleep as I currently do, I don't understand. Like, my choices were do this or struggle to sleep for an extra couple of hours. But last week, I woke up after only getting like 2 hours of sleep, and my body was doing the whole "you're not actually tired" thing. It was gaslighting me into believing I got more sleep than I actually did. When you have OCD and anxiety, being short on sleep, and probably fucking still suffering the after effects of whatever caffeinated shit you had with dinner, you get trapped in a lot of toxic mental cycles. So I tried to go back to sleep, and I couldn't. And then I suddenly remembered, oh shit, I need to call and get my anti-alcohol medication refilled. I'm a recovering alcoholic. So I call and I find out that I have no refills left. So I call my doctor, just for me to find out that my doctor had just been forced to have an early retirement due to health concerns of his own. So, yeah, I'm supposed to be going back to sleep because I have work in a couple of hours, right? And now I just had my agency stripped from me because I don't know if whoever's gonna pick up this prescription is going to approve of a refill of any sort. Because yes, it was passed off to a case manager, and ultimately I did end up getting it refilled, but at the time it was completely uncertain, and it just added to the overwhelming anxiety I was feeling. So I rolled out of bed, I got myself to work, I worked my full shift, and it was a busy day because the type of work I do, it gets affected by the weather conditions. If you live in the Midwest United States right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I was just in an awful mood. And I started thinking to myself, you know what? Some vodka sounds really nice right now. And you gotta keep in mind that none of this is rational, right? But then I remembered I had this album to listen to, so I figured let's postpone that decision at least long enough to listen to this. I Dream of Christmas by Norah Jones. You guys have been sleeping on my Norah Jones episode. I've been getting, at least relative to how this series usually does, really good views this year. But the Norah Jones episode hasn't even cracked 100. And for some reason, she's constantly dismissed by so many people. And I'm here to remind you again that you guys are seriously sleeping on this woman's discography. Mostly because a lot of you guys are traumatized by your own baby boomer or Gen X parents that spun Come Away With Me 7 or 8 billion different times, right? But right around 2009, she had this bit of a renaissance, and like everything she's made since then has just been absolute fucking golden. I think she's scored more A tiers this year than like any other artist I reviewed, even Deftones. She's gone into this very Spectre-esque sort of production, very wall of sound, except minus the forcing your girlfriend to drive around town with a dummy in her car because you're too controlling and jealous to control yourself sort of vibes. This is actually very, like, foreshadowing of the sound of Visions, with the amount of echo and delay, and the amount of vocal layerings that she's playing with. And let me just say, this album made me not want to drink, because it's like, it's the coziest fucking blanket you could possibly put on. And today was another awful day for me, because now I have COVID and I'm sleep deprived, and my body won't let me sleep, and I don't know why. And I listened to this thing again, and it calmed me down again. I think it's just a genuinely great album. This album is half originals, all of which could sound like modern Christmas classics in and of themselves. And then also half like reimagined Christmas classics, especially her rendition of Christmas Time Is Here, probably one of the most haunting and beautiful renditions of that song, right next to Sixpence None the Richer's version. But then there's the song You Are Not Alone, a song whose title can very quickly give you the vibes of like one of those very lazy videos that just flashes the, crisis hotline number on the screen without actually offering any like solace or empathy, right? But instead, it's like a song that she wrote with the intention of actually making you feel better, especially with the fact that like suicidality rates like skyrocket during the holiday season, right? She knows that at any time, like her album could be the last thing somebody listens to. And while I can't say that that was a direct intention of this specific song, it feels like one of those songs that in the right moment, don't completely quote me on this, because if you really are struggling mentally, be careful when people say stuff like this, but it is one of those songs that sounds like it's kind of trying to talk you off the bridge. And yes, it does have a little bit of religiosity to it, but it's not completely overdone. Norah is one of those artists that you put on for like comfort food music at first, and then you play her at a time that you're at like the lowest in your life, and her music just becomes suddenly like from that piano comfort music you play in the background to the stuff that you bawl your fucking eyes out to. It's got hidden layers because she's got just so much subtlety to her delivery. And yeah, the music's old-timey, you've heard this type of stuff before, but she still breathes new life into this type of stuff. And while I may still like The Fall more, while I still may like a couple of her other A+ releases more than this, I will say that this is probably one of the best modern Christmas releases. A+. And listen to me. I know that my voice is a little grating right now because I'm still recovering from COVID, right? But I want you to know right now that this is a really tough time for a lot of people right now. Not just because it's the holiday season, but because this year has just been fucking rough, right? Just absolutely fucking catastrophic. If you've been paying attention to the news, it's just one shitstorm story after another. But I want you to know that if you're scared right now, we are currently several steps further away from the Nazi Germany level of fascism that we were scared of this time last year. If you're a minority, I know that, you know, guys that look like me, we could never even imagine the level of pain and devastation that you're feeling on a daily basis right now. But I want you to know that we're gonna make it through this, that you can make it through this, that I'm likely gonna stop recording this, go lay down and toss and turn for a couple of hours and eventually fall asleep. I want you to know that it's all going to be okay, one way or another. And that most importantly, it's never too late. It's never too late to quit that shitty job that you're in. It's never too late to leave that abusive relationship that you're constantly trapped in. It's never too late to start socializing or start a new hobby. It's never too late to call up a loved one and tell them how much they mean to you. And if you don't even have that, I want you to know that you can gain that. It takes time and effort, but you can. I'm gonna flash the crisis hotline number on the screen, but I know from experience that hasn't been very useful for a lot of people in recent years. They're flooded. They're trying to avoid getting sued. I'm sure people have had their positive experiences with the National Crisis Line, but they don't always come to the rescue, and that can be very devastating. And I know that my words of solace may not help everybody, but if it helps you, I want you to know that at the very least, I wish you a happy holiday season. And stay healthy, stay sane, stay groovy. See you later.